Great. So the fourth in our talks this afternoon are Professors Eugene Ndabaga and Professor Ricardo Sabates Aysa, who are going to be talking about language barriers in Rwandan primary schools. Over to you both.
Nitwa mwarimu Ndabaga Eugene.
I am called teacher Ndabaga Eugene.
Nejejwe no kuba iki kiganiro mu rurimi rwanjye kavukire kugira ngo bageze ikiganiro.
I'm very happy to share these findings with you.
Ku buryo bagezeho ikiganiro mu rurimi mutumva no kugira ngo ko twakwigisha abana.
To start by using Kinyarwanda, my mother tongue, is to let you experience the difficulties in getting information through a language that you don't know. That is why we're going to discuss strategies.
I guess that dilemma has set the ball rolling for a short discussion, because I could see that many faces were getting worried. So my God, for how long are you going to take to reach Rwanda? We started the language and then we started discussion. But don't worry, that was a pedagogical approach to our discussion. So, as you can see, that's the team of people who carried out this pilot study, because it was not a longer study, it was kind of a pilot study. We have to try to find out the rationale of carrying out this study. Short as it was, it is very, very important. Just to take you back briefly to the educational history of Rwanda. In the 60s, I'll be very brief according to the time that I have been given. In the 60s, teaching was done in French, of course, because Rwanda was at first Belgium, later on French colony. 78, Kinyarwanda was advised to be used as a medium instruction. Later, in 91, they said, no, let's go back to French. Hardly a decade. You can imagine how many graduates of high school are those. 2008, again, let's go back to, let us now English, because our policy by then, so many Chinese from English-speaking countries, let's use English. There we went. A very short period, no. Let's go back to Kinyarwanda as a medium instruction for lower primary schools. That is primary 1 up to primary 3. And then from primary 4, you start using English as medium instruction. This time it was not even a decade, even half. Let's go back to English. That's the dilemma you have gone through, and I started using Kinyarwanda. We ask ourselves, where are these students in terms of learning to achieve their outcomes, to be competent? Even at times to the issue which I'm not going to discuss now, the issue of quality, because as you know, a language is not an indicator of intelligence, but it's a strong tool to learn. Then where are those students? But our interest is not really to blame teachers or students. But our interest in this study was to find out, what are the teachers doing? What strategies are they using to make sure that students achieve the outcomes that are expected of them? What strategies are they trying to put in place? So these are our two main objectives as they are put on the board. What strategies primary teachers are using to make sure the students try to get the content of each subject. What are the broader principles? What do you mean by principles? There are other policies that the government put in place that teachers have to be using or to follow. Talk about the popularly known principle of competence-based curriculum today that needs teachers to, or requires teachers to use contextual teaching to make sure that students learn from the context where they come from. They are able to apply. Again, it goes back to the issue of strategies. What strategies can they use in the midst of incompetence in English language? And this incompetence cuts across. It's not only for students, but also teachers themselves. As you remember, the way I've taken through you into the issue of history, the policy fluctuations, it did not affect only at first, actually it affected teachers in the system, and now students in a particular period. As I said, we are not blaming anybody, but we are asking. They have to make sure that students acquire the expected outcome. They have to pass national exams. So what are teachers trying to do? So those too many questions drove us to try to go to teachers. The methodology we used were very simple. We just wanted to talk to teachers through in-depth interviews. Perhaps Professor Ricardo will come and talk about it. Probably in the future, if it's possible, we can go in depth of observations. But this time, we try to converse and talk to teachers. Tell us, in the midst of this hardship, what are you doing? Because regardless of the incompetence of the language, students have to be taught. They have to pass. They have to gain what they're supposed to gain. So what are you doing? So that's the simple methodology that we tried to use. Now, when we are talking about the findings, we are not going to elaborate everything that we found out, but we are going to capitalize on a few things. As I said, teachers have got a language problem and incompetence. Students are the same, but still, students have to learn. So back to the issue, what teachers are doing. So in summary, what you are seeing, or what you found out, is that they make sure that they use visual illustrations. Why these visual illustrations? Because if they want to use definitions, if they are to use analysis in front of a primary one student who comes from a family where they don't even know good morning, they will face the same dilemma you faced when I started talking to you. So that's why the illustrations come in. They have to make sure that they motivate them to make sure that they try to forget or to overcome the fear of the language that they don't know. They also have to help them pass national exams, because at the end of the day, that's what students want. A student at the end of the day wants to pass national exams, goes to secondary school, goes to the university. So teachers have to do whatever they possibly can to make sure that students understand in the midst of their incompetence in the English language. In terms of practical findings, the commonest strategy we found out was the popular known code switching that goes along with translation. Because they would tell you, come on, these are students from families where they can't even speak good morning. And yet, as by the policy is a law. If the head teacher is passing by and finds me teaching in Rwanda or even in French are not allowed, I'll be reprimanded. So what we do as we are teaching, we dance between the languages. Some of them actually, for upper classes, which we do not intervene anyway, code switch from English to French, because majority of the teachers, they are strong backgrounds in French. And some of the students, depending which school a student attended, you may find they're better in French than in English. So code switching and translation, we found them very popular strategies as far as teaching is concerned. But before giving you the last three common strategies, that pays a price, code switching and then translation. Because when it comes to teaching from the concrete to abstract, it becomes a problem. And that creates a system of studying what you call rote learning, cram work. And that, in the end, has a negative impact on the quality of education. Because students are not able to conceptualize concepts. Even the other principle of CBC gets lost. Because competence-based curriculum, as you know, the word competence is the key in that concept. Students are not able to be competent, are not able to apply because they are cramming facts. Another common strategy we got from teachers there, they try to use, is demonstration. Yes, we know it's pedagogically correct to demonstrate. But in their experience, it's overdone because that's the only way they can make sure students understand a given item. Take an example. If they have a unit in that textbook concerning games, a teacher, poor teacher, has even to jump to make sure they know what jumping is, because they cannot define to a primary 1, 2, 3 students from a very rural background, at least those from urban background, they can learn a little bit of English even on the street. But these students, over 90% come from rural areas. So if you have to teach games, jump, you have to jump. Eat, you have to pretend to eating. So demonstration was another popular strategy they are using. Another one was, which was very, again, common, rehearsal or repetitions. A teacher comes in class, good morning, how are you? Sit down. What happens is what happened to you. When I started talking, the only thing you did is just gaze at me. And that's what happens to students. But the teacher has to, every morning, repeats this until they get it by heart. So rehearsal, repetition is another popular strategy which we found in the lower primary schools. Not because they are the only ones they know, but because they are direct in terms of giving the meaning to what they're teaching. However, another danger we found out. There comes a time when a teacher, herself or himself, cannot find something to demonstrate. Cannot find, because as I said, teachers themselves have got this weakness. What happens? He or she skips the theme. And that has an effect on the quality of education. Has an effect on national exams, because who knows, that part may be examined. All those are some of the consequences. Last but not least, drama and playing is another common strategy we found that they're using. That one is a bit pedagogical, because the younger people are, the more they enjoy drama and games. So through these songs, I remember we used to have this a long time ago, we used to have songs even singing about the Queen of England. But through that, we could get some concepts. So what teachers do is create some music, some kind of drama, at least with a combination of demonstration, then students can get something out of a given unit. So, in brief, the study is all about wondering what are the primary school teachers doing in spite of. We are not condemning English as a medium instruction. I remember Professor Samba put it correct and I loved it. There's always different voices between policymakers and academicians or researchers. So we are not condemning our powers that be, but we are saying these people, what are they trying to do in order, at least, in spite of all these problems, they still teach. I will stop here and I will call Professor Ricardo to come and continue the next 2 slides. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Eugene. And it is a real collaboration. It is a pleasure to be collaborating with Professor Eugene. We have many years of working together in Rwanda. And as Professor Samba asked, this is evidence-based. This is evidence-based on an issue that is very important for Rwandan teachers, that of language of instruction. Also for us, it's important the capacity building of our researchers, our local researchers, Sylvester and Bartholomew, who were engaged into this project from the beginning, and it's fantastic that they were able to present these results and take ownership of these results and speak about these results, because they're the ones that are talking to teachers, to policymakers, to local communities in the African Evidence Summit and beyond. And just to finish, thanks to the Cambridge Africa comes with a little bit of a story that Professor Eugene sends this email that appears saying, shall we apply for this? And then it's an opportunity for funding that we're like, okay, yes, why don't we apply to the United Nations Peace and Development Fund, which we've gone now through the 4th round. So the first round was to put a 1-page, which then Professor Eugene was selected to take us to the next round, which then was to put a full proposal. And the beauty of having these teams that have been working together for so long is that actually it went very smoothly. And then we make it to the next round, which was, Professor Eugene was called for an interview on a Saturday. I think that we were getting together and then Professor Eugene was interviewed. And now we are in the final stages of hopefully at some point being able to say, fantastic, thank you, Cambridge Africa Alborada. Now this project, we'd like to do it at a scale. We'd like to, as Professor Eugene said, we want to observe teachers, see what are these amazing different strategies that they're using in the current policy, which is English as a medium of instruction. That is something that, as Professor Eugene said, as researchers, we can have our own views of whether that is the approach or not, but that is the reality of the teacher. So we want to lift these teachers, work with them, and move forward with them in terms of these amazing strategies that they're doing. Thank you very much for having us today.